Towanda Braxton never planned to tell this story. Not to the public, not to the cameras, not even to her own sisters. Some stories live quietly inside people for so long that they become part of breathing. You stop noticing the weight because you've carried it your whole life. Towanda learned early that silence could be safer than truth. Silence kept rooms calm. Silence kept arguments from exploding. Silence kept love from turning into punishment. So she stayed quiet. For years, the world watched the Braxton sisters sing, laugh, cry, and pray on television. Fans believed they knew them. They saw harmonies in studios, jokes at dinner tables, tears during confessions. What the world didn't see were the spaces between those moments, the pauses where things went unsaid, the looks that lingered too long, the rules no one dared question. Towanda was always the quiet one. She wasn't the breakout star. She wasn't the loud one. She wasn't the favorite topic of debate. She was the middle sister, the glue, the one who made sure everyone else stayed whole. Middle children learn invisibility early. When you're not the oldest and not the baby, you learn to disappear politely. You learn that being easy makes life smoother for everyone else. You learn that love sometimes feels conditional, like a reward for not causing trouble. Towanda learned those lessons well. Evelyn Braxton raised strong daughters, talented, disciplined, focused. She believed in excellence the way some people believe in prayer. To her, perfection wasn't cruelty, it was protection. She had lived through struggle, watched opportunities vanish, seen doors slam shut for people who weren't ready. She promised herself her daughters would never be unprepared. But sometimes, protection comes with a price. Evelyn wasn't just a mother. She was a manager, a director, a gatekeeper. In their home, love and expectations were tightly braided together. Praise came when things were done right. Disappointment came when they weren't. And disappointment felt heavy, like something you didn't want to cause twice. Towanda felt that weight more than most. She followed rules. She swallowed feelings. She learned that peace mattered more than comfort. When her sisters fought, Towanda smoothed things over. When voices rose, she lowered hers. When choices needed to be made, she adjusted herself to fit them. Over time, she became known as the strong one, the dependable one, the one who didn't need extra care. But being strong doesn't mean being untouched. It means learning how to hide pain so well that people forget to check on you. And that invisibility made Towanda vulnerable. Michael Jr. was always around. The family described him as charming, funny, easy to like. The kind of person people naturally gravitated toward. Growing up in a home filled with music, fame, and constant movement, boundaries weren't always clear. Everyone was close, sometimes too close. There were moments that made Evelyn uncomfortable. Small things, lingering conversations, emotional dependence that felt heavier than it should. She noticed. She intervened, redirecting, managing, guiding. At least, that's how it was described. Some believed Evelyn was protecting Towanda. Others believed she was protecting the family image. And a few whispered something darker. That control had begun to replace care. Towanda didn't have the words for it back then. She only knew how she felt. Pressured, confused, afraid of disappointing the people who shaped her entire world. Fear doesn't always look dramatic. Sometimes it looks like obedience. Sometimes it looks like saying, okay, when your body is screaming no. Sometimes it looks like trusting someone else's voice more than your own. Years passed. Fame grew, cameras followed, storylines were assigned, roles were reinforced. Towanda remained in the background, supporting, assisting, sacrificing. The pressure didn't scream, it whispered. And whispers can be more dangerous because they sound reasonable. Until one night, alone in a dim backstage hallway, that silence finally cracked. Towanda sat with her hands shaking, a small voice recorder blinking red in front of her. The air felt thick, like even breathing required permission. She hadn't planned to say anything. She didn't even know what she was allowed to say. All she knew was that holding it in was starting to feel unbearable. I wasn't ready, she whispered. I didn't want it, but I felt like I had no choice. No names, no details, just truth leaking through fear. Later that night, Tamara walked in and saw her sister crying. And everything began to change. The confession. Tamara had learned the sound of silence. Not the peaceful kind, not the quiet that comes after laughter or prayer. This silence was tight, brittle, stretched thin like glass ready to crack. She felt it the moment she stepped backstage that night. The hallway was dim, lit by one flickering overhead bulb. Crew voices echoed far away, muffled and distant, like the world had moved on without noticing something was wrong. Tamara followed a feeling more than a sound, and that feeling led her straight to Towanda. Towanda was sitting on a folding chair, shoulders curled inward, hands clenched together like she was holding herself in place. Her face was swollen. Her eyes were red and unfocused. The tiny voice recorder sat beside her, its red light still glowing. Tamara froze. She didn't rush in. She didn't speak right away. Trauma teaches you when to slow down. "Wanda," she said softly, "what happened?" Towanda looked up, startled, like she'd been caught doing something forbidden. For a second, Tamara thought her sister might lie. Towanda had perfected that skill, not lying with words, but with calm, with smiles, with "I'm fine." But tonight, she didn't have the strength. Towanda's lips trembled. She swallowed hard, like the words were stuck in her throat. "I didn't want to record anything," she said. "I swear I didn't, but if I don't say it somewhere, I think it's going to eat me alive." Tamara sat down slowly, careful not to scare the moment away. "You don't have to explain," Tamara said. "You don't have to perform, just breathe." Towanda breathed in, then out. Then the truth slipped through the cracks. "You don't know what it's like," Towanda whispered, staring at the floor. "To be the strong one, to be the one who never gets to fall apart." Tamara felt something twist in her chest. Towanda had always been there for everyone else. When Tamara spiraled publicly, Towanda defended her. When Trina struggled quietly, Towanda checked in. When Toni distanced herself, Towanda bridged the gap. No one ever asked who held Towanda up. "I did what I was told," Towanda continued. "Because I was scared. Not scared of him, scared of losing everything. Scared of being the reason things fell apart." Tamara leaned closer. "Who told you?" Towanda hesitated. Her eyes filled again, like she was weighing something dangerous. "I don't want to say names," she said. "Not yet. I just need you to understand that it didn't feel like a choice." That word landed heavy. Choice. Tamara knew what it meant to feel like you had one, and realized later that you never did. She had lived her pain in front of cameras, headlines, strangers who picked sides without knowing the cost. She reached for Towanda's hand. "I believe you," she said. "Even if I don't understand everything yet, I believe you." Towanda exhaled sharply, relief mixed with fear. Being believed can feel just as scary as being doubted when the truth is this big. They sat like that for a moment. Two sisters, no cameras, no audience. Then footsteps echoed down the hallway. Towanda stiffened. The door creaked open. Tamara turned and saw their mother standing there. Evelyn Braxton hadn't meant to interrupt anything. At least, that's what she told herself. She had noticed Towanda missing earlier, felt that familiar maternal instinct flare. She expected to find exhaustion, maybe tears. She did not expect silence thick with secrets. "What's going on?" Evelyn asked gently. Towanda didn't answer right away. Her hands began to shake again. Tamara looked between them, already sensing danger. Towanda finally lifted her head. Her eyes met her mother, and something in that gaze changed. Years of swallowed words pressed forward all at once. "It was Michael, Jr.," Towanda said quietly. The sentence hung in the air. Evelyn blinked. Tamara stopped breathing. Towanda's voice cracked, but she kept going. "And I never forgave you for it." The hallway seemed to shrink, like the walls leaned in to listen. Evelyn's face drained of color. "Towanda," she said slowly, "what are you talking about?" Towanda stood up. Her legs wobbled, but she didn't sit back down. "You know exactly what I'm talking about," she said. "I didn't want it, I wasn't ready, and you told me I had to." Silence exploded. Tamar's hands flew to her mouth. "Mom." Evelyn shook her head, her voice firm but strained. "This is not the place for this conversation." Towanda laughed once, a short, broken sound. "It was never the place," she said. "That's the problem." Evelyn looked at the recorder on the chair. Her eyes sharpened. "You were recording this?" Towanda nodded. "Because every time I tried to say it out loud, I was told to stop, to be grateful, to not make things messy." Evelyn stepped closer. Her voice dropped. "I guided you," she said. "I did not force you." Towanda's eyes burned. "There's a difference between guidance and pressure," she said, "and you crossed it." Tamar stood between them without realizing it. Instinct, protection, fear. "Okay," Tamar said. "We need to pause. This is too much." Towanda shook her head. "No," she said. "I've paused my whole life." Evelyn's composure cracked just enough for Tamar to see it. Hurt, confusion, something that looked dangerously close to regret. "You're remembering this wrong," Evelyn said. "You were young, things get blurry." Towanda's voice dropped to a whisper. "It's not blurry to me." The hallway door slammed open again. A producer poked their head in, unaware of the landmine they were stepping on. "We're ready for you both," they said cheerfully. 5 minutes. No one responded. The producer glanced around, sensed the tension, and quietly backed out. Evelyn turned to Tamar. "We'll talk about this later," she said. "As a family." Towanda's shoulders sagged. "That's what you always say," she replied, "and later never comes." Evelyn left without another word. The silence she left behind felt colder than before. Tamar turned back to Towanda, eyes shining with tears she refused to let fall. "You just changed everything," Tamar said. Towanda nodded. "I know." And for the first time, she didn't apologize for it. She picked up the recorder, turned it off, and slipped it into her bag. That confession wasn't meant for the public. But truth has a way of finding light. And it was already walking toward the cameras, the table EXPLODS. The brunch was supposed to be easy. That's what the producers said. That's what the schedule promised. That's what everyone needed it to be. A calm scene, soft music, a warm table. A family moment that reminded viewers why they fell in love with the Braxtons in the first place. Smiles, laughter, light teasing, nothing heavy. But truth doesn't care about schedules. Towanda arrived early. She sat at the long dining table while the crew adjusted lights and clipped microphones. Her hair was perfect, her makeup flawless, her smile practiced. Anyone watching from the outside would have thought she was fine. But Tamar noticed the stiffness in her shoulders the moment she walked in. Towanda kept twisting the same bracelet around her wrist, over and over, a nervous habit she had since childhood, a habit Tamar recognized instantly. Trina felt it too. She hugged Towanda longer than usual, then pulled back and studied her face like she was trying to read music that suddenly sounded wrong. Toni entered next, calm, observant. Her eyes lingered on Towanda just a second too long before she took her seat. Something was off. Evelyn arrived last, as she often did. She walked in with authority and grace, dressed beautifully, commanding the room without raising her voice. Crew members straightened. Conversations softened. Evelyn Braxton had that effect. She greeted everyone warmly. Hugs, compliments, a matriarch doing what matriarchs do. She did not hug Towanda. Not because she was angry. Because she assumed everything was fine. Towanda was always fine. Cameras rolled. Plates were set, food was served, a short prayer was said. Small talk flowed like lukewarm water, safe, shallow, unthreatening. For a moment, it almost worked. Then Evelyn smiled and said something simple. "Y'all remember how close everybody was when you were younger," she laughed lightly. "Especially you and Michael Jr. You two were inseparable." Towanda froze. Her fork stopped midair. Her eyes dropped to her plate like it had suddenly become too heavy to look at. Tamara saw it instantly. "Wanda," she said softly, "you good?" Towanda didn't answer right away. She inhaled slowly, deep, the kind of breath people take before they jump. "No," she said. One word. But it landed like thunder. Trina blinked. Tony straightened. Evelyn frowned, confused but still calm. "What do you mean no?" Evelyn asked gently. Towanda looked up. At her mother. At her sisters. At the cameras. "I mean, I'm tired," she said. "Tired of pretending everything was perfect." The room went quiet. "I'm tired of acting like you always protected us," Towanda continued, her voice shaking but steady. "Because you didn't protect me." Silence cut the air sharp enough to hurt. Behind the cameras, producers leaned forward. Evelyn's smile disappeared. "Towanda," she said carefully, "what are you talking about?" Towanda's hands trembled, but she didn't look away. "You remember," she said. "Don't act like you don't." Evelyn stiffened. "Remember what?" Towanda swallowed. "Michael Jr." The name alone shifted the room. "I didn't want that," Towanda said. "I wasn't ready, and you told me it was best for the family. You told me if I didn't go along with it, I wouldn't be supported, that I would lose opportunities." Tony gasped. Trina's mouth fell open. Tamara whispered, "Oh my God." Evelyn blinked hard. "You are twisting things," Evelyn said, her voice controlled but tense. "I never forced you, I guided you. There's a difference." Towanda shook her head slowly. "No, Mommy," she said. "It wasn't guidance, it was pressure. You made me feel like saying no wasn't an option." The brunch table was no longer a table. It was a battlefield. "I raised you girls to be strong," Evelyn said, her voice rising just enough to shake. "If you did something, it was your choice." Towanda let out a small, broken laugh. "Choice," she said. "I was 19. You told me if I said no, I'd embarrass the family. You said I'd ruin our future." Her voice cracked. "You stood in the doorway and said, 'Don't be the reason we lose everything.'" Tony covered her mouth. Trina whispered, "Jesus." Tamara wiped tears quickly, trying not to cry on camera. "What was I supposed to do?" Towanda asked. Before anyone could answer, a voice came from the corner of the room. "I need to speak." Everyone turned. Michael Jr. stepped forward. He had arrived quietly for his scheduled scene and had been listening from the hallway, long enough to hear every word. Cameras swung toward him. Crew members scrambled. Towanda stared at him like she was seeing a ghost. "I didn't know you felt forced," Michael said, looking directly at her. I thought we were mutual. I thought you wanted it too. You never said no." Towanda's voice shook. "I didn't know how," she said. "I was scared. I trusted Mom more than myself." Michael's face drained of color. "If I had known that," he said, voice breaking, "I never would have touched you, ever." The room shattered. Evelyn stood up abruptly, hands covering her mouth as tears finally spilled. Tony rushed to her side. Trina cried openly. Tamara grabbed Towanda's hand under the table. Years of silence collapsed all at once. "I did what I thought was right," Evelyn cried. "I sacrificed everything for this family." Towanda looked up at her, eyes burning. "And you sacrificed me in the process." That sentence broke something in Evelyn. She turned away, but the cameras caught it anyway. And just when it felt like nothing more could happen, Michael spoke again. "Towanda," he said quietly, "you should tell them about the letter." Every head snapped toward him. "What letter?" Tamara demanded. Michael swallowed. "The one you wrote years ago," he said. "The one you hid in Dad's Bible." Towanda's face went pale. Tony whispered, "You wrote a letter." Towanda nodded slowly, hands shaking. "A confession," she said. "Everything I couldn't say out loud." Michael added softly, "That Bible is still in the attic." The room went still. This wasn't just emotion anymore. This was proof. And everyone knew, once that letter was found, nothing would ever be the same again. The letter. The moment Michael mentioned the letter, the room changed. Not slowly, not gradually. Instantly. It felt like the air had been pulled out and replaced with fear. Tony stood up first, packing beside the table like she needed movement just to stay upright. Trina reached for water she didn't drink. Tamar stared at Towanda like she was seeing her for the first time, not as the calm sister, not as the peacemaker, but as someone who had been carrying a secret too heavy to hold alone. Evelyn didn't move. She stood near the window, one hand gripping the curtains so tightly her knuckles turned white. She didn't look at Towanda. She didn't look at Michael. She didn't look at the cameras. Finally, she spoke. That letter was never meant to be found. Her voice wasn't loud. It wasn't angry. It was fragile, sharp with fear. Towanda lifted her head slowly. "So you knew," she said. Evelyn didn't answer. She didn't have to. The silence answered for her. Producers whispered urgently behind the cameras. Someone tried to call a break. No one listened. This wasn't television anymore. This was excavation. And once digging starts, stopping only makes the collapse worse. Filming wrapped early that day, not because the scene was finished, but because everyone was afraid of what would happen next. Fear of what the letter said. Fear of what it proved. Fear of what the public would do with it. That night, a crew member leaked a single sentence online. Not video. Not audio. Just words. Towanda says Evelyn forced her into something she didn't want. There's a letter, a real one. 10 minutes later, it had thousands of shares. An hour later, it was trending. By morning, it had a hashtag. The internet did what it always does. It ran faster than the truth. Fans theorized. Commentators speculated. Screenshots of old episodes resurfaced. Every smile, every hug, every uncomfortable moment was re-examined through a new lens. But the letter wasn't just online gossip. It was real. And the family knew where it might be. The old house. The one Evelyn kept like a time capsule. Trophies on shelves. Unopened boxes labeled with years no one wanted to revisit. Memories carefully packed away but never discarded. The sisters gathered there quietly. No glam. No performance. No plan. The attic smelled like dust and history. Boxes were stacked unevenly, labeled in faded marker. Tour 98. Studio rehearsals. Family Christmas. Dad's things. Towanda's hands shook as she opened the box marked with her father's name. Inside were books, loose photos, sermon notes, and at the bottom, a Bible. The gold edges were worn down from years of use. The cover was cracked, familiar. Towanda's breath caught in her throat. Everyone leaned closer. Tamar held her breath. Tony whispered a prayer. Trina rubbed her arms like the air had turned cold. Michael leaned against the wall, eyes heavy with guilt. Towanda flipped through the pages. Nothing. Nothing. Then, a folded piece of paper slipped out and floated to the floor like it weighed nothing at all. The room froze. Tamar grabbed Towanda's hand. "Are you sure you want to read it?" she asked. Towanda nodded. Her lips trembled as she unfolded the page. Her voice cracked on the first line. "I'm writing this because speaking hurts too much." Tears filled her eyes, but she kept going. "Mom says I have to do it, that it's for our career, but I don't want to. I'm scared. I feel like a child pretending to be grown." The room was silent, except for her uneven breathing. "Michael is kind," she read, "but kindness doesn't equal consent, and I don't know how to say no without losing everything." Evelyn stepped forward, shaking. "That's not the whole story," she pleaded. "Please." Towanda didn't stop. "If anyone finds this one day," she read, voice breaking. "No, I didn't choose. I obeyed because I was taught obedience was love." The paper slipped from her fingers. Towanda collapsed to the floor, sobbing as years of silence finally shattered. Tamar wrapped her arms around her. Trina cried openly. Tony stood frozen, hand over her heart. Michael turned his face away, shame weighing on him like chains. Evelyn dropped to her knees. The strong matriarch. The unbreakable one. Finally broken. "I thought I was protecting you," she whispered. "I thought sacrifice was love. I didn't see the harm. I swear I didn't see it." Towanda looked up at her. Pain, love, anger, all tangled together. "You saw it," she said softly. "You just ignored it." And in that moment, the past stopped being something they could rewrite. Because while the family unraveled in the attic, someone else was watching. Ashley stood in the hallway, phone raised, recording not the confession, but Evelyn crying. She posted it minutes later. "Y'all always think Tamar the messy one. Look deeper. This family been broken." The clip exploded. And with it, everything changed. The leak. The video didn't spread. It detonated. Within 30 minutes, Ashley's post crossed 500,000 views. Within an hour, it was everywhere, reposted, screen recorded, slowed down, zoomed in, analyzed frame by frame like a crime scene. Blogs grabbed it. Commentary channels slapped red arrows on thumbnails. TikTok stitched it with dramatic music and captions like, "This changes everything." The clip wasn't even of the confession. It was of Evelyn crying. That's what made it dangerous. People had never seen her like that. Not the firm mother, not the commanding matriarch, not the woman with answers. Just a mother on her knees, undone. For some viewers, it looked like guilt. For others, it looked like grief. And for the internet, it looked like blood in the water. By morning, the hashtag had evolved. Braxton letter. Justice for Towanda. Family secrets. Who knew? Everyone had a theory. Everyone had a side. Towanda didn't log on. She sat on the edge of her bed, still holding the letter in her hands like it might dissolve if she let go. Her phone buzzed nonstop, calls, texts, notifications, but she didn't answer. The woman who had stayed silent for decades had finally spoken. Now, silence felt like the only way to breathe. Across town, the rest of the family was in chaos. Tony went into control mode immediately. She called publicists. She drafted statements that said nothing but sounded calm. She begged producers not to air the full attic scene. "They're my family," she said, voice cracking. "Not a storyline." The response was polite. And useless. Ratings were already climbing. Trina tried to mediate quietly. She sent voice notes full of prayer and pleading. She begged everyone to pause, to breathe, to remember that once something is public, it can't be pulled back. No one listened. Tamar went live. No makeup, eyes swollen, voice raw. "I love my mother," she said, "and I love my sister, but pain is pain, even in a gospel home." Comments flooded the screen faster than she could read them. Some praised her honesty. Others accused her of enjoying the attention. A few demanded she choose a side. "This is not entertainment," Tamar said, tears spilling over. "This is our real life. Some of us been bleeding in private for years." The live ended, but the clips didn't. They never do. Evelyn recorded her own video later that night. She sat at her dining table, Bible beside her, tissues scattered like surrender flags. No lights, no crew, just a phone. "I am not a perfect mother," she said, voice breaking. "But I loved my children with everything God gave me. If I pushed too hard, it was never to hurt them. It was to protect them." The internet split clean down the middle. Some heard remorse. Others heard justification. Meanwhile, Michael Jr. watched the backlash grow and made a decision. He messaged a reporter. "I'm ready to tell everything if the family keeps lying." The war was no longer internal. It was public. By sunrise, the family name wasn't just trending, it was dominating. Talk shows invited therapists and pastors to debate. Twitter Spaces ran all night. YouTube reactors streamed for hours. TikTok turned the letter into dramatic voiceovers with storm effects and sad piano music. And then it got worse. A blurred screenshot appeared. Just one. A portion of the letter. Not the whole thing, just enough to spark chaos. Lines were highlighted, words misread, sentences pulled out of context. What had been Towanda's private pain became public entertainment. People crowned heroes and villains without knowing the full story. Michael was dragged, even though he apologized. Evelyn was labeled a monster. Tamara was blamed for letting it air. Tony was accused of protecting the brand. Ashley was called a clout chaser. The family wasn't trending anymore. They were burning. Brand partners noticed. A sponsor paused Towanda's contract. A talk show postponed Evelyn's appearance. Networks started asking questions. This wasn't drama now. It was livelihood, reputation, legacy. Towanda finally broke her silence with a single tweet. I didn't speak to destroy my family. I spoke because silence was destroying me. The tweet hit millions. But instead of calming the storm, it ignited round 2. Because Ashley quote-tweeted it with 4 words that stopped the internet cold. And she still ain't told the whole truth. Gasps. Screenshots. Panic. What whole truth? Before anyone could recover, Ashley posted again. Part 2 coming. Y'all not ready. She attached a blurred image. A second page. Towanda froze. Evelyn cried harder. Michael texted 3 question marks. Tamara called back to back. Tony dropped her wine glass. Because no one, not even Towanda, remembered exactly what was written on page 2. And if Ashley truly had it, the next reveal wouldn't just break the family. It would change everything. The second page. Ashley didn't make people wait long. She understood the internet. She knew timing mattered more than truth, and she chose the moment carefully. Exactly at 9:47 p.m., when live streams were already running, when theories were flying faster than facts, when the audience was hungry and emotional, she posted again. No blur. No crop. No warning. The entire second page of Towanda's letter. Handwritten. Tear-stained. Ink uneven, like the pen had shaken while the words were being written. The internet froze for half a second. Then it exploded. People zoomed in immediately. Screenshots multiplied. Red circles appeared. Underlines, arrows, slow-motion scrolls. Every word was treated like evidence in a trial. But one line stood out. One sentence that shifted everything. I didn't want it, but they said it would protect Tony's career and keep Tamara from embarrassing the family. Not Mom said. Not Michael said. Not one person. They said. Plural. Shared responsibility. The narrative cracked wide open. If Towanda felt pressured to protect her sisters, whether knowingly or not, then this wasn't just about Evelyn. It wasn't a simple villain story. It wasn't mother versus daughter. It was a system. Comments flooded in faster than moderators could keep up. Who is they? Did Tony benefit from this? Did Tamara profit from Towanda's silence? Did the sisters know? The internet turned feral. 10 minutes later, Tamara went live. No makeup, hair pulled back, face bare and trembling. I never asked my sister to do anything for my career, she sobbed. I didn't even know about that letter. Nobody told me. Nobody. This wasn't performance. This was devastation. The sound of someone realizing their success might be connected to a pain they never saw. Tony called in mid-live, voice firm but breaking. Tam, end this. We need to talk as a family, now. Fans screen-recorded everything. Nothing stayed private anymore. Towanda watched from her living room, frozen. She whispered to herself, I wrote that page. But the words didn't feel the way the internet was reading them. She wasn't accusing her sisters. She was explaining how she felt. How she felt overshadowed. Expected to carry weight quietly. Taught that sacrifice was love. Perception became reality the moment the world decided it was. Evelyn called, crying. Baby, you said they told you, she said desperately. Who is they? Towanda closed her eyes. I don't remember faces, she whispered. Just voices, pressure, fear. But did I say it? Evelyn asked, voice shaking. Towanda hesitated. I don't know anymore, she said. I just know I wasn't heard. That was the tragedy. Trauma blurs memory. Silence sharpens pain. There was no clean villain, no easy truth. Just wounds. And then, Michael Jr. posted. One tweet. No emotion, no explanation. Y'all blaming the wrong person. The internet stopped breathing. It wasn't Evelyn. It was Tamar. It was Tony. Pause. Then the final line. It was the label. Everything shifted. If the pressure came from management, executives, contracts, image control, then this wasn't just a family scandal. It was industry. Fans refreshed pages obsessively. Bloggers rewrote headlines. Legal teams started typing. Old stories resurfaced, artists pressured into silence, young people pushed into situations for the brand. Michael followed up. I have the voicemail. Screenshots attached. A saved voice memo. A timestamp. A contact name, labeled with the record label's executive title. He didn't release it. Not yet. But he promised he would. Comments flooded in. Drop it. Release the receipts. We want the truth. Towanda's phone buzzed nonstop. Tamar begged him to stop. Tony demanded a private family meeting. Evelyn prayed out loud, packing her living room. Michael ended his thread with one sentence. If they keep lying, I'll release everything tomorrow. Fade to black. No answers. No resolution. Just one question burning through everything the Braxton name had ever stood for. When that voicemail drops, will it clear names? Or burn bridges forever, the industry shadow? That night, nobody slept. Not Towanda. Not Tamar. Not Tony. Not Evelyn. And definitely not the people who knew exactly what that voicemail might contain. By sunrise, lawyers were already awake. Not family lawyers. Not personal lawyers. Corporate lawyers. The kind that don't panic publicly. The kind that send emails labeled urgent and confidential. The kind that don't ask whether something is true, only whether it can be proven. Phones rang behind closed doors. Executives whispered names. Old contracts were pulled from drawers that hadn't been opened in years. People who hadn't spoken to the Braxtons in a decade suddenly remembered their numbers. Because if Michael Jr. was telling the truth, this story had just crossed a dangerous line. This wasn't about family conflict anymore. This was about power. Towanda sat alone at her kitchen table, the letter folded neatly beside her phone. She stared at the screen like it might explode. Every vibration made her flinch. She never wanted this. She wanted understanding. She wanted acknowledgement. She wanted someone, anyone, to say, "You didn't imagine it." Instead, the world was tearing itself apart over her pain. Tamar finally came over. No cameras, no lives, no statements. Just a sister. They sat in silence for a long time before Tamar spoke. If that voicemail is real, she said quietly, then everything we've been fighting about, it was never just us. Towanda nodded. I didn't have the language back then, she said. I just knew adults were talking and I was supposed to listen. That was the part that haunted her the most. She wasn't pressured with threats. She wasn't yelled at. She was managed. Guided, framed, reassured. Told what was best. Across town, Tony met with her team. She was calm on the outside, strategic, focused. Inside, she was unraveling. If executives had positioned Towanda as a buffer, someone whose sacrifice protected the brand while others advanced, then Tony's success would never feel clean again, even if she didn't know, even if she never asked for it. Ignorance doesn't erase benefit. That truth sat heavy in her chest. Evelyn, meanwhile, knelt beside her bed. The Bible was open, but the words blurred together. For the first time, she wasn't praying for strength. She was praying for forgiveness, without knowing exactly what she was asking forgiveness for. "I trusted them," she whispered. "They said it was normal. They said it was how the business worked." Had she mistaken authority for wisdom? Had she defended a system that used her daughter's silence as leverage? Her phone buzzed. A blocked number. She didn't answer. Michael Jr. watched the chaos unfold with a mix of fear and resolve. He knew once he dropped that voicemail, there was no going back. Labels didn't forgive whistleblowers, they buried them. Quietly, efficiently. But he also knew something else. Towanda had lived with this alone for too long. He typed one more message, this time not public. To Towanda. "I'm sorry it took me this long to understand. Whatever happens, I won't let them erase what you felt." Towanda read it twice. Then once more. That was when it hit her. The voicemail wasn't just proof. It was a mirror. If it confirmed the pressure came from executives, contracts, branding, image control, then the family would have to face an even harder truth. They weren't just victims of each other. They were managed participants in a system that rewarded silence and punished resistance. By noon, rumors started spreading. Industry insiders hinting anonymously. Old assistants liking cryptic tweets. Former employees suddenly remembering weird meetings and unspoken expectations. People who had stayed quiet for years began testing the water. Because once one person speaks, others realize they might not be alone. Towanda's phone rang again. This time, it was a number she didn't recognize. She answered. A calm voice spoke. "Towanda, this is legal counsel representing parties who prefer not to be named. We strongly advise you to encourage Michael Jr., not to release that audio." Towanda laughed softly. Not because it was funny, because it was confirming everything she already knew. "So it's real," she said. A pause. "We're saying it could be misinterpreted." Towanda hung up. She stared at the letter, then at the ceiling. For the first time in her life, she wasn't thinking about how to protect everyone else. She was thinking about herself. Michael posted one final update that afternoon. No threats. No drama. Just truth. This isn't about ruining a family. It's about exposing a machine that teaches people silence is the price of success. The internet held its breath. Because if that voicemail dropped, this wouldn't be the end of a scandal. It would be the beginning of an industry reckoning, the edge. By the time night fell again, the world was no longer waiting. It was hovering. Live streams stayed open like news channels during a crisis. Comment sections moved so fast they blurred. Every refresh felt like it might be the moment everything collapsed. But the voicemail didn't drop. Not yet. That silence was louder than any leak. Towanda sat alone in the same place she had started, quiet, still, exhausted. The letter lay folded beside her like a witness that had already testified. She ran her fingers over the creases, feeling how thin the paper was, how fragile something could be while carrying so much weight. She thought about the girl who wrote it. 19. Confused. Trying to be good. Trying to be loved. That girl never imagined the world would read her words. She only wanted to survive them. Tamer called again. This time Towanda answered. "I don't want him to release it," Tamer said, voice cracking. "Not because I'm scared of the truth, but because I'm scared of what it'll do to you." Towanda closed her eyes. "I've been living with it my whole life," she said softly. "Whatever happens next, at least I won't be alone." Across town, Evelyn sat at the dining table, hands folded, posture rigid like she was waiting for judgment. The matriarch role no longer fit the same way. Authority felt hollow without certainty. "I thought obedience meant safety," she whispered to no one. "I didn't know it could teach silence." That was the hardest truth. Not that harm happened, but that it happened while everyone thought they were doing the right thing. Toni stared at old footage on mute, performances, interviews, applause. She saw success layered over something she never questioned before. Not guilt, not blame, just responsibility. And Michael Jr. sat with his phone face down on the table. He hadn't released the voicemail because once it was out, it couldn't be undone. Careers would fall. Relationships would fracture. The story would no longer belong to the people who lived it. It would belong to the internet. He typed one final message, then deleted it. Typed again. Deleted again. Then finally, he wrote, "Tomorrow the truth comes out, not for revenge, for clarity." He didn't post it. He saved it. Because even now, standing at the edge, everyone understood the same thing. This wasn't about winning. It was about surviving what comes after the truth. Towanda stood up and looked at herself in the mirror. For the first time, she didn't see the quiet sister, the peacekeeper, the invisible one. She saw someone who had finally spoken. And whatever happened next, whatever voice came through that voicemail, whatever names were confirmed or cleared, she knew this much. Silence would never be her shield again. The story didn't end here. It paused, right at the edge. And when the next chapter begins, it won't be about secrets anymore. It will be about who stands when everything falls. And now we're here. Not at the end of the story, but at the moment everything changes. What started as silence turned into a letter. What stayed hidden inside a family turned into a public reckoning. And what was once dismissed as just reality TV drama has revealed something far deeper: pressure, power, and pain that lived quietly for years. This isn't about picking sides anymore. It's about asking the uncomfortable questions no one wanted to ask before. Was Towanda pressured by her own family? Or by an industry that treats people like chess pieces? Did Toni and Tamer unknowingly benefit from a sacrifice they never asked for? Or were they kept in the dark the same way the audience was? And most importantly, when that voicemail finally drops, will it clear names? Or will it burn bridges that can never be rebuilt? Because once that audio is heard, there's no editing it, no softening it, no pretending it never existed. This is bigger than a show, bigger than fame, bigger than headlines. This is about legacy, about trauma passed down in silence, about truth finally demanding space to breathe. So now it's your turn. Backhand index pointing down, drop your thoughts in the comments. Who do you believe? Team Towanda? Team Evelyn? Team the sisters? Or Team Receipts? Thumbs up, hit like if you think the voicemail will leak. Bells, subscribe, and turn on notifications, because when the next part drops, we're breaking down the voicemail, the executives behind it, and the truth they never wanted public. Stay locked in. Stay vocal. Stay watching. Because this story isn't over. It's about to explode.